Oh, hello again, my lovely viewers, on a colder day today, slightly more cloudy and certainly quite chilly. You find me again at the end of another day at the Hermitage. It's been a good day, but a quiet day. Haven't done too much. Before we start, I'm going to try for the first time ever from my decanter a glass of Smoky Head, it's called. It's supposed to be a peated whiskey. I believe it's from Isla. Maybe it's not, but I think it is. Never had it before, but it was on offer. It was cheap. I like a bargain as a Yorkshireman. So we'll give it a go, shall we? I was running rather low. You'll notice, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but my port decanter is empty. I can feel another shot coming on. A little bit, not acidic, but strong. That's got that iodine taste, which you expect from a good cough mixture. But certainly the peat is there. But yeah, it's quite rough actually. It's not particularly smooth. Not sure really how I'm going to get on with that, but yeah. We'll see. Might grow on me, a bit like pipes, you know, you've got to smoke them for a bit. I haven't brought my pipe. I was going to bring I broke a pipe yesterday. That wonderful talon claw meerschaum. Can you believe it? It survived 175 years. And then I get hold of it and break it. I haven't broke the wonderful carving on it. What it was it was not blowing through properly, so I thought, oh, it needs a clean. So I thought, I know, I'll just take the stem off and give it a good old mess about, like I do with all my other pipes. I did it in a sort of a moment of unthinking. I should have brought it up to show you, but it's got an amber stem, a silver ferrule, then it's got the carved meerschaum. I'm wondering if it's meerschaum at all, whether that's amber as well. I'm not quite sure. It's beautifully carved anyway. Cut a long story short, I twisted it in a moment of just, you know, that automatic pilot, because most stems that go into a pipe either just go in or they unscrew. On my other meerschaum, it unscrews, you see. So I just sort of twisted it, thinking, oh, I'll just unscrew it. Big mistake, snapped. The amber snapped. Now I'm presented with a problem. I can either glue it, try to glue it, it may glue, or I may jettison the amber anyway, because I wasn't very keen on it in my mouth. It's very glassy in your mouth. And I might try to put a modern stem or a vulcanite stem into the silver ferrule. In other words, break off all the rest of the amber and everything else, drag it out or whatever, and try and put a modern stem in. Perhaps Chris over at Harriet Pipes might be able to give me advice. I was going to bring it up here precisely for that reason, so he could have said where it was doable. I mean, I'm sure it must be doable. As long as you've got a hole, you can presumably fashion something to go into it. But anyway, so that was a bit upsetting, but not in a way, which I will go on to explain later and talk about. So I haven't brought a pipe up with me, got me whiskey up here, but I have brought my snuff in my little silver snuff case. But I was watching Richard Vobes this morning. I always have a coffee and a pipe, sort of late morning really. And I thought, well, Richard was bound to have uploaded, and he had. And so I watched his pipe smoking video. Very good. If you haven't watched, go over to have a look at Richard's channel. And he was trying some snuff. because he'd seen me take snuff. Now, I have it in my little thing here. He had it in his... he paid more, apparently, for the postage than the actual snuff. And he didn't seem to get on with it. I think I know the one he had. He had... it's called Bordeaux, which is fairly inoffensive. But if Richard or anybody else out there wants to see what I... it's that one there. I don't know if that'll come up on the camera. That's Hedges. It's just called the Snuff. And that's quite mentholated. Now, I don't know whether Richard would get on better with a mentholated one. And he was asking me whether he'd done something wrong. I don't know. All I do, I think it doesn't help closing one. I've never seen anyone close one nostril and then open one other and then snort up the other. That was probably, I won't say it's a mistake, but entirely unnecessary. The second thing is he may have taken too big a pinch and snuffed with too much velocity. I simply, just take a wee bit, in my finger, like that. I just go, and that's it, done. Glorious. And that's all there is to it. I mean, in the old days, or some people used to, there's the little hole in the hand there, and they just used to, they would take a bit and put it in there and go like that, wouldn't they? That's probably a very polite way to do it. And one might want to do that in polite company if ever one was to find oneself in polite company, which is a rarity these days, isn't it? But that's how you do it, Richard. I don't know what... I know in some forms of yogic Hindu, when they're doing breathing exercises, they go like that and then they go like that. But I've never known it for snuff. But obviously, there must be some sort of video out there that suggests that one can do it that way. I certainly wouldn't recommend it doing it that way. The other side, I would suggest getting a snuff... Menthol's nice, because it's like... it clears the sinuses. It's quite nice, really. You might want to try that. I might send you some... I think I might send you that one, I don't know. Or I'll see if I can get that in the post to you. But then if you really hate it, there might be no point, so let me know if you hate snuff as well. But you may have been... So that was not necessary. You may have been using too much velocity inhaling it. I mean, I can get away with it because I've been doing it for years. But as a beginner, I wouldn't snort it with such velocity, and probably take a lot less between your thumb and forefinger. I mean, I would lightly brush it with a small coating of snuff, and just take it to your nose, and just breathe it. Don't snort it even. Just breathe it in gently. To start with. Try that with that Bordeaux and see how you get on. You may just absolutely hate the experience. It's not for everybody, is it? But there's a few tips. And I shall be just using that for my talk today rather than my pipe. Because I've just had a pipe and I don't fancy another one now, frankly. So it's been a good day. And on the Land Rover front, there's some good news there. I've got the window wipers working. Got lots of lovely comments from my Land Rover friends. About what to do. Again, I think it was simply a wiring fuse situation. So I just had a look at all of that. And I know I've got one good fuse, so I just stuck it in all the different... I took all the fuses out. And the one fuse I knew that was a good one, I just put in various the sockets. And lo and behold, the windscreen wiper. So that was an easy fix. And I'm glad, because I don't want to be messing around with motors either. If it wasn't the wiring, that would be a pain, an absolute pain. But they're working. That means everything is working on the Land Rover now, apart from one light bulb. And even that might just be the housing. But I just can't be bothered to get the cage. I was going to originally just try and get the cage off today, but I ended up looking at the windscreen wipers. I was going to get the other cage off that side and just had a fiddle with the light bulb. It worked on the other one. But anyway, I've ordered another light bulb for that side lamp, that side light. Anyway, it's probably useful having a spare one anyway. And another helpful viewer mentioned getting those sort of self-tightening, whatever, they use them for the floors, or I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I've ordered those too. So I'm going to replace all the screwing arrangement on the cages, because I think these will look better anyway. I think the ones I've got are matte black, so probably look quite smart, really, rather than sort of cheap-looking flathead screw business. So, yeah, Land Rover, good day. I've now got a fully functioning vehicle that's probably legal and can be taken out in the wet. So, apart from breaking my pipe yesterday evening, I mean, it's been a good 24 hours, really. And I was thinking really about life and breaking things and how it affected me. And I spoke to a friend on the phone, and she said that I would have erupted if this had happened years ago, and I probably would have done. And I can remember erupting when things go wrong or break, or you drop something or you smash something. And then I try to analyse why one would react so in such a volatile manner. What's that all about? Is it the monetary value, where you just say, God, I've just broken something that's worth such and such? There is that factor, of course. Or is it something else? What if you've got pots of money, so it doesn't matter what it costs? Would you still be incensed? And I have this sort of, or always have had, or used to, I certainly don't seem to have it so much now, where whenever I would buy anything off the internet, or if I was ever in a shop, I'd be looking for blemishes. So if something arrived through the post, the slightest blemish, I'd send it back. So, no, it's got a dent, it's got this, it's got a scratch there, whatever. I'm talking about new goods, obviously, not those and even those that arrive in antique condition, like that Zippo. I said, it doesn't close, it's not perfect, doesn't, yeah, I've got some money off. So there's still a bit of that about me. And it's all to do with perfection, isn't it? I recognise within me that, there is a desire for everything to be perfect. For me to be perfect, for life to be perfect, for everything I own to be perfect, unmarked, unscratched, unmolested, not moth-eaten, not rusted. And you become then very bonded with things, don't you? With stuff, with objects. But by knowing this and understanding it, you become less exercised. And so when I broke it, I was almost unexercised. I was sad because it's a work of art that I've destroyed almost. But then I thought, no, it can be repaired, and what you repair it with might be something better than what you've got. I mean, you could almost change that into a church warden if you had a long enough stem. So I thought, no, everything is solvable, and there's no point in getting exercised. What was it our grandmothers used to say? There's no point crying over, yeah, you guessed it, spilt milk. And there isn't. By erupting in anger or disappointment, I don't think you achieve a great lot. And again, it got me to thinking, and you are going to get a sermon. It's a Sunday, so you are going to get a sermon. It got me thinking about life in general, about the nature and the phenomenon of stuff. And I was minded to think in terms of what we call non-dualism. Now, it's going to get heavy, and I might get confused myself. Because what I'm going to talk about is confusing and very difficult for the Western mind, those of us in the West, to grasp. And it started with I was almost thinking in terms of the parable of the broken pipe. And what is the difference between that pipe in its unbroken state and its broken state? And of course, it is still the same thing, essentially. The broken pipe and the unbroken pipe are exactly the same. Now, as I say, to the Western mind, you think you've gone round the twist, Father. You're talking absolute nonsense. But bear me out. And so I started to think about this idea about things being this way and that way. Or I often say that things aren't always what they were, but they certainly are what they are now. Things aren't the same as the past, but they are what they are now. This sort of dichotomy, this dualism, this idea of something being something and it not being something else. And the idea in non-dualism is that there is no such distinction between the broken pipe and the unbroken pipe. They're the same thing. And I spent a bit of time in contemplation and meditation trying to work this through in my head. And I came to the conclusion, and I'm not the first, there are many spiritual masters who talk about this subject, where what we tend to do as human beings is we talk in terms of subject and object. And so there are always two things, in a sense, even though there are a plethora of phenomena in the world. But we always see individual phenomena as object and subject. So, for example, there's me here, I am me, and you are over there. We're separate. Object and subject. There is a difference between the two of us. Apparently. There is me and there's that mountain. There's me and there's that tree. There's me and there's that glass of whiskey. Subject and object. Not the same thing. And so I started to examine phenomenon. And what I realised, of course, is, as we all do, is that there is a plethora of phenomenon. But how do we stand in relation to all of that divergent phenomenon? And basically, we tend to relate to it as us and them, I and it, me and you, me and him. He's different from me, I'm me and he's him. Good and bad, pretty and ugly, broken and unbroken. But of course these are all illusion. I talked about the three poisons the other day, about anger, greed and illusion or ignorance. And part of that ignorance or illusion is this idea that there is actually a difference between you and me, or me and it, or me and him, where in fact there isn't. And this would be what one might call the distinction between coexistence and interexistence. In a world where you believe in subject and object, a dualistic world, therefore everything is other. There's you and there is other. One is often threatened and frightened. But it's an illusion because I believe, and I believe the wisdom of the divine incorporates interexistence, not coexistence. Coexistence works in the sense that if you do believe in subject and other, me, him, you, I, it, my, it, that, then you just coexist. So all the phenomena that you're aware of in the world and in your life and in other people, workplace and at home, you would say, well, I just coexist with it. So if I meet a difficult person, and I do sometimes, you would just say, well, I just have to put up and shut up. I coexist with this other entity. And there you have it. And so there may be anger, there may be an antipathy, because I am me and he is him, and you can't abide the individual. But if you think in terms of interexistence, it's entirely different. Because in that sort of world, everything is the same, belongs to the same essence, the same one being, as it were. And so he and you is an illusory division. It's an illusory duality. There is no him and you. There is just us. And we're all part of that larger sentient being. Now, Christians will call that God. Other religions have other names for it. And so in the unravelling of creation, where all the phenomenon exist, there is a unity. There is a oneness of being between all of it. In other words, you're interconnected. There is an inter-existence. And so it doesn't serve you when you start dividing yourself from the rest of that phenomenon and say, well, yeah, there's me and there's just all you lot out there. There's just all you lot. And there's all these other things I need to conquer and sort out and control and get life the way I want it for me. I've got to tinker with all the phenomenon. I've got to get me phenomenon right. I've got to sort it all out. When I get this, I'll get that. And when I get that, I'll get the other. And when I've done this, I'll do this. And when I've done that, I'll have that. And when I've got her, I'll do this. And when I do it, I'm going to tinker with all the phenomenon so that this illusory self feels a lot better about itself and a lot happier. You would think. I would say you're going down a wrong path. But when you see the interconnectedness, the interexistence, you don't need to tinker with anything. Because everything is that it is, because all things are as they are. Everything is as it is, because all things are the way they are. Suddenly there's no rancour. Suddenly there's no conflict. Suddenly there is peace and tranquility. So in other words, whether it be a difficult person or a difficult situation, it is as it is. And things are because of the way they are. You're not fighting it. And the result is, certainly with other people, therefore, you're going to feel a certain amount of compassion, I would say, for other people. Because they are the way they are, because of the way things are, if you know what I mean. See what I mean? It's quite a complicated idea. Well, maybe it's not complicated. There's a reason why everybody is the way they are, and there's a reason why everything is the way it is. But as soon as you put yourself out of that as subject and object, you get division, I suppose is what I'm saying. Rather than seeing your being utterly and totally connected to all beings, that includes all the difficult human beings, you know, and all of nature, of mountains, of streams, of wind and water. It is all part of the same one essence. Now, and some people will be shouting at the screen saying, but you're supposed to be a Christian priest. You sound more like a Taoist mountain hermit rather than a Christian priest. Well, let me remind you of the verse in Galatians, where St. Paul says that in Christ there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither freeman or slave, nor male or female. There is non-dualism in a biblical verse. Some people might just sum it up in another verse where it said, all things are united in Christ. Because when you start imposing division, that is where you start encouraging rancour and anger and revenge and control and manipulation and avarice and ambition. All of these things come from this idea of subject and object. Once you get rid of those, all this other stuff just evaporates. Are you with me so far? I'm not even sure I'm with me so far. This is a heavy sermon. It's a lot to get your head round. And I'm not even sure I've got my head round it. And I'm talking about it. So there is interexistence, not coexistence. And things are because everything is always as it is. Difficult subject. Oh, I want to give a shout out, by the way, before I forget. I've just come to me that talking about interconnectedness and interexistence. The great thing about the internet is that you are interconnected. And a very nice chap called Kirk from Kansas. That rolls off the tongue nicely, doesn't it? Kirk from Kansas. He bought me 3 coffees. 3 coffees, and that probably will pay for coffee. Because I like to have a coffee late morning with my first pipe of the day. And stocks are running rather low. There's the 5-minute warning. Stocks are running low, chaps. So I'll be able to get some coffee in now, thanks to Kirk. Nice one. I'm not going to talk any more about coexistence and dualism. I think I've probably given you enough to munch on there, really, haven't I? Maybe given Richard a few snuff tips. I like snuff. It's cheap. I'm not sure. I agree with Richard. It's probably not as nice as comforting, and the whole experience is much nicer with a pipe, I think, than just the snuff. But the snuff is handy at times. But I think it takes some getting used to, and some people do and some people don't. I took it even as a teenager at times, played around with it as I did with a pipe. So I'm kind of used to it, really. And Richard was saying, well, I didn't get a hit off it, or I didn't get, But I think that's probably because he'd already been smoking his pipe. I'll put a challenge out to you. Those of you who like a nicotine hit, you do without your pipe for a while, or a day, or all day, and then go back and have some snuff and see if it hits the spot then. I think you'll find it will. It really will. I know what it's like. I've been to the pub, and the thought of going to the pub and not having either a cigarette, a pipe, or a snuff is intolerable in one sense, because it goes with tobacco, doesn't it, the pub? Unless you're a non-smoker. And I remember actually almost having a panic attack once. I went to a pub for somebody's birthday a couple of years ago, and there I was sitting in the White Bear at Massam, incidentally, which is the one I've based the Blue Badger on in my novel, but that's another story. I was sat there and I thought, this is great, isn't it? I'm sat on the terrace, sun is shining, I've got a beautiful pint of real ale in front of me. And 2 slurps in, I thought, oh no, I haven't brought my snuff with me. And it was purgatory for the rest of that pint. Now, people who enjoy a smoke or enjoy their snuff, or dare I say a cigarette, will know exactly what I'm talking about. Can you imagine, you pipe smokers and you smokers of cigars and cigarettes, can you imagine spending a whole evening with your chums in a pub, drinking pint after pint, maybe not too much, but you've left your cigars, you've left your pipe, you've left your snuff. Now, you cannot tell me that you will enjoy that evening a lot less because of that. So you know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to snuff, do without your pipe to the point where you're gagging for a pipe, where you're thinking, I really need to get my pipe out and smoke it now. Resist to the point where you can't resist any longer. Then go and have your little sniff of snuff and see how you get on. So there we go. We've had a bit of spiritual advice today, and we've had a little bit of earthly advice. But of course, there is no difference between heaven and earth in non-dualism. All the same thing, my friends, all the same thing. So you enjoy your little drink of whiskey tonight, or your pipe, or your snuff, or your chamomile tea. It is all the same. And I will bring my pipe out next time to show you the broken pipe, because in my parable of the broken pipe and the broken pipe are one and the same thing.